Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Schaefer Inspection Service. My name's Katie. I'm here with our intern, Kylie.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about the intersection between horses and home inspections, our long-awaited topic. So, Kylie, why don't you introduce your connection to the equestrian world?
So, I've been riding horses since I was 8 years old, and I'm 21 now. And I'm on the Sacred Heart Equestrian team.
Something that is sort of interesting and maybe a little bit known fact to people who are not in the equestrian world is that very similar to buying a house, a lot of times folks will choose to get a pre-purchase or a pre-listing inspection, which is very similar, I think, to what folks will do when they're purchasing a horse.
Definitely, when you're buying a horse, that's a big investment for a lot of people. So, you're going to want to pre-purchase on the horse, which is basically just a vet looking over the horse, making sure the horse is healthy and sound, and that your investment is getting put to good use.
Which I think is totally very similar to why folks might choose to get an inspection on their home, or of course, here at Schaefer Inspection Service, we definitely encourage folks to get an inspection on their home. As a huge investment, you're going to want to know what you're purchasing and you know what you might walk into. Why do you think somebody might choose to do that in the equestrian world, and who does it really serve?
More so for the buyer. You want to make sure that the horse is gonna be able to do the job, and if it's a show animal, most of the time, like what I do, I show horses, so you jump and compete on them, and you want to make sure that they're healthy and that their legs are sound and that conformationally everything is looking good. You want to make sure that you don't have any issues that come up, and if it's going to be a good investment.
That's really interesting. Is there ever a time when somebody who is planning to sell their horse might want to go ahead and get a pre-purchase with a vet prior to putting it on the market so that they know maybe what to list it at, or what they might be getting into, or what the buyer might find?
Sellers of horses will have the vet come out and take a look at the horse just to make sure that everything's good and they're able to correctly and accurately price their horse.
Kylie, it's interesting. You've been here with Schaefer for almost a full semester at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so where have you seen some of these same themes come up with home inspections?
With houses, you want to make sure that the house is in good health as you would a horse. A house and a horse, they're both huge investments. So with these inspections, you want to make sure you're making the right decision and that whatever you're buying, you're prepared for it. Sometimes with horses, whether they're young or they're old, there will be maintenance that needs to be done on the horse.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of want to identify some of the issues or just what's going on with your investment so that you're prepared for anything that may come up in the future.
Definitely. That's super interesting. I think everything that you're saying about both from a seller and a buyer of a horse is translatable to purchasing a house. Sometimes you might go and see a horse and maybe you are saying, oh, this is a younger horse, everything looks good. Is there ever a time where something looked good on the surface, but there turned out to be deeper issues that you know of?
People might look over the pre-purchase exam on a horse, but if you don't do all the tests, like something else might come up in the future that might be a major issue. Or sometimes that could look over something and might not find an issue that a horse had, and that's just all the money going down the drain.
So that's why it's important to pick the right vet.
Yes.
Sounds like. So a thorough report is of course of utmost importance.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really similar in a home.
Yes.
The more information you know beforehand, the better you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you can't know everything.
There are some freak accidents that could happen, but it's good to know. And especially like if a horse needs maintenance, then you can set aside money for the future and be prepared for these things, so it's not just a surprise and then you're kind of scrambling.
Because it could be a perfect horse in every other aspect. And so if it's perfect for what you need, but there's just this one thing, you say, it's right for exactly what we need for our situation, and we're willing and able to do this maintenance.
Yes.
And we know that, and going into it, then we're good to go,
hmm
right?
And it's like the same with older homes, they're going to be a little higher maintenance just because of their age. Same with horses, like an older horse, they've been an athlete for a long time. And like the older you get, the more your bones, the more your body wears down. So you're going to need to do a little bit more maintenance just to upkeep with the horse and make sure that they're happy and healthy and able to do their job correctly.
Right. And another one of your passions is cars, and it's very
Yes.
similar to cars.
hmm
My dad had an antique car growing up, and that he would take out only on, the nicest of occasions. But he loved it for what he loved it for, and
Yes.
it needed maintenance
Yeah.
when it needed maintenance.
Mhm.
And then that's just the way it was.
Yeah.
So you ride horses, and you compete on the weekends, which is really exciting. But oftentimes they're not always your horse.
No.
So how do you assess subtle signs that something might be off with a horse, even if it looks fine at first glance? So oftentimes you're just arriving to a horse and you have to get on it and compete.
Another person will ride the horse, and I can kind of assess the movements of the horse, so I can kind of identify how to ride the horse. There are definitely some times where what I see in the ground is very different from when I get on the horse, and it's like the same with the inspection. And sometimes, like, you look at the house on the ground, and it looks beautiful, and then you get inside and you kind of look at the small details, and some things might arise that you didn't notice from the pretty pictures online.
Wow. There's such an overlap, I think,
Mhm.
between those two worlds
Yes.
that I think a lot of people just don't even.
Didn't even think of that. A
Don't
lot
even
of
think about it.
similarities.
Well, thank you, Kylie. That has
you.
been one of the most interesting things I think about getting to experience and through the semester understanding your experience is getting to see that point of view. So,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you so much.